anyone here? Yeah. Yep, there's my dashboard. Oh. Mr. Reed.
A.B.
Damn, Osiris, give me that drip.
In a world so full of darkness, hard for us to see the light. In a world so sick with madness, hard to know what's wrong from right. In a world that has no conscience, hard to sometimes not to spare. In a world that feels like hate you, it's hard to sometimes even care. In a world so full of confusion, we still don't know what justice is. Please took another life today, it's so unfair, he was just a kid. Might end up in court, but we already know what the verdict is. How could it ever be a real trial when they call the killers as witnesses? How can the sunshine rise if the nut doesn't fall? And how can there be justice until there's justice for all? And how can we stand by and watch the people in pain? And how can we bear witness as history repeats again? In a world that's so unstable, everybody is just petrified. In a world so full of lies that we only see things from one side. In a world so full of vengeance, human rights will be denied. In a world that's turned so cold, we'll turn a blind eye to a genocide. And nobody heard their pleas when they were told to flee from their town. And everybody just stood by as the people ran and the bombs aimed down. And now they can never go home when the homes have been razed to the ground. And now they left no trace, and now they can't even make a sound. How can the sunshine rise if the nut doesn't fall? And how can there be justice until there's justice for all? And how can we stand by and watch the people in pain? And how can we bear witness as history repeats again? In a world so full of division, it's hard to see how there can be peace. In a world so used to war, we see no end to hostilities. In a world where a ceasefire is just a promise it's waiting to break. In a world that doesn't learn, we'll repeat all of the same mistakes. In a world where war is money, the profits always will dictate. And when we sold the bombs, we turned our backs and ignored their fates. And now the sort rolls on and the bodies are all stacking up high. But if the money rolls in, then it's easy for us to turn a blind eye. How can the sunshine rise if the nut doesn't fall? And how can there be justice until there's justice for all? And how can we stand by and watch the people in pain? And how can we bear witness as history repeats again?
Hell yeah. Bring it. Hi everyone. That was tictacmusic. He appears in chat in places, and that was his song. Hi Specs. Rejoice, comrades. Specs Bean Farmer is in the chat. Hi. I'll do my usual spiel. I am MadCat79 Scotty I on Twitch, or Katie Marshall 4340 on YouTube. I am a Scottish disabled Marxist streamer. Welcome. We have just heard a premiere song. Okay, to the dystopian. Tic Tac, if you can hear me, you're more than welcome to come over here. To the dystopian. Oh god. Bugger it. It was, wasn't it? The hell? Screen capture? Oh, fine, be a bastard. So fucking annoying. Add source. Add source. This one. Go. Move over. Those two you can see right there. Adult colouring book of Highland cows, or Heelan coos as we call them here. I coloured those. Both of them today. I haven't finished the one that's on the left. I'm debating whether or not to actually colour in the rest of the grass that you can see behind the healing coo. Eh? Did you, Jim? Oh, I'll do everything. Rejoice, some random geek is lurking in the void. Watch out for the tardigrades geek. Jim Speak is here. Hello, comrade. Oi, oi. Rejoice, comrades. It's the Morton is here. Hi, Morton. And, woo, Daydream Beyond is lurking in the void. Also, watch out for the tardigrades and say hi to some random geek. Hi, Specs again. Okay, I think I put all of them in far right wankery. Oh god, I'm gonna hate these stories, I fucking know it. Oh, no, there we go. Where are we? Right, the picture didn't come up. Oh, it's the... Oh! Rejoice, comrades, mod extraordinaire. Shanna Cranky Pants is lurking. Hi, sweetie. Warning, warning, this story involves Rupert Lowe. But fuck it. It was good seeing the Palestinian flag and obviously the other three flags. Our one. Us Scots call it the butcher apron for obvious reasons, but it's the Union flag. Don't annoy me by saying the Union Jack. It's only the Union Jack when it's on a jack staff, which is on a ship. So Union flag, American flag, and I don't know if there's a colloquialism for the Israeli flag or not. There probably is, I just don't know it. And the Palestinian flag. Oh, fucking hell. You down there. This one in. No? Oh, fine. Be a bastard. This is going to get really fucking annoying doing this every time. Add source. Source. This one. Go there. Move over. The graveyard geoglyph. Let's see. You know, look. Oh, right. It's actually quite a good take on it. This is hitting the sections which I'm trying to concentrate on, so benefits, immigration as well, and far right wankery. God, look at his face. Refreshment, I'm going to need it. Boom. Oh. That is one hell of a headline. Thank you, Canary. That is quite good. Racist Rupert Lowe tries to come for foreign nationals claiming pink benefits. Oi, Rupert, we can't do that. Well, for national... What does he mean by foreign nationals, first and foremost? Because there are foreign nationals that do be living here that can claim benefits. If he means asylum seekers before they get approved to be here, then they can go and work. If they... Yeah, they are, Jim. That's right. That's why foreign national. If that's the words he's used, that there's foreign nationals here that are claiming Oh, for Christ's sake. There's foreign nationals here that do be claiming benefits, including non-dom status. Well said, Jim. Yes, exactly. Oh my God. Former Reform MP and perpetual racist. Oh my God. Rupert Lowe has crashed into another social media storm. Him just literally turning up, just with his mouth silent, would be crashing anything, really. After his comments on Department for Work and Pensions benefit claimants, Lowe unleashed a series of tweets scaremongering and fanning the flames of anti-immigrant sentiment. Oh, God. Let us see. 15,000 black... Oh, God damn it. Rupert, evidence, please. Which will be a neat trick, because you don't actually work in the Department for Work and Pensions. So what? If they're entitled to claim them, let them claim them. There we go. 1.3 million foreign nationals claiming universal credit. There's one immediate saving that could be made. Fucking shut it, you racist bastard. They are, yes. Correct. The the person who was... By the way, if you were born after 1983, you need to prove that you're a British citizen. People seem to forget that. I didn't need to prove my Britishness because I was born before 83. My youngest sister doesn't like that fact. She had to jump through a couple of extra hoops when she was getting her passport because she was born after 83. Well, she was born in 1983. So everyone born 83 onwards has to prove, with multiple pieces of documentation, that they are British citizens. They had to get their parents' birth certificates to prove that they were British. I don't hate the English. I hate the British state. Rupert, you're a wank. Fuck off. Of course, it's entirely lost on multi-millionaire Lowe that immigrants, regardless of nationality, are humans who require money to live. No true Scotswoman. As such, their continued survival, be it via lofty expenses like food, bills, rent, cost money. Yes, they do. They're not savings to be made by millionaires who wouldn't know a functioning budget if it shoved them backwards through a food bank. I'm going to try and keep a straight face, honestly. Not to be deterred by a lack of basic humanity, Lowe continued. I'll say it again. Legal immigration is a bigger problem than illegal fuck me. What the fuck, Rupert? I'm pretty damn sure that when you were part of Reform and when you were campaigning in the general election last year, I'm sure some of your donors for the party are fucking foreign nationals. Yeah. Look at this. Rupert Lowe. What a dickhead. This is called xenophobia. Correct. Of course you did, Tic Tac. Rejoice, comrades! Tic Tac music is in the house. Hello, hello. That was brilliant. Round of applause for Tic Tac. You're welcome. You've made it through to the, well, technically it's the Katie Marshall stream on YouTube. It is the Mad Cat stream on Twitch. Hi. Spreading you far and wide. Mostly from people who actually populate Kevin Helena's chat and Raptor's chat. So you've got a good cross-section of UK and America. And anyone else that might watch my stream later on when I'm not streaming, of course. This is called xenophobia and, as Rupert well knows, is a racist and nationalist viewpoint. Nonetheless, Lowe then said, oh God, it's getting worse. If a foreign national is unable to support themselves financially, then why are they here? What are they contributing? What benefit are they providing? None is the answer. Go home. You do realise that a lot of foreign nationals are non-doms. Literally, foreigners who come in, donate to our electoral parties, our political parties. They're doing nothing. They're not contributing towards my existence. They're contributing to the existence of political parties and people like yourself, Rupert. Obviously, they won't go home because they've got preferential treatment here. Tax loopholes and the such. Would I send them home? It's like a knockoff Kalari Jean. I don't know if I'd be good with firearms, Jim. I know I'm good with swords. Well, used to be back in the day. Might still be. Correct, Jim. Yeah. Seriously, why is he in politics? Why? Just fuck off, Rupert. Seriously, go away. Yeah. Despite himself being a waste of air, Rupert apparently believes that if someone is impacted by the cost of living or financial crisis after financial crisis, then they should starve and or go home. Not their homes in the UK, those other homes that they left or whatever mysterious reasons. Now, Lowe's comments are obviously racist bullshit. They're not holding back, are they? A racist bullshit, correct. But they are racist bullshit that tries to weaponise the very existence of anyone that isn't white and British. You can be things other than white and British here and still have leave to remain. Thank you. According to the Department for Work and Pensions themselves, as of January this year, 76.2% of people on universal credit are white. Myself and my super hubby are on universal credit. We are both very white. 10.4 were Asian British. 6% were black, African, Caribbean, black, British. 2.9% were of mixed ethnic origin, and 4.4% were other. I wonder if the Department for Work and Pensions also note that their information on ethnicity is optional. Asians, just putting them all, that's a big amorphous blob, really. That could describe someone from Japan or India or the Middle East for West Asia. So like that's possible Palestinians here. Israel, well, maybe not. Some Israelis, Chinese, Japanese, Taiwan, Malay, Indonesian, Aborigine, even from Australia. So they've just grouped these people together and just said Asian, which covers a fucking. I thought they changed. Oh no, I'm thinking of my benefit up here when I was doing it. Social Security Scotland. Too many S's. They listed them all down so you could actually tick or cross Japanese or Indian or Pakistani. They didn't just group Asian into the one box, because that makes no fucking sense. The Department of Work and Pensions also note that their information on ethnicity is optional, and they state that because of this, universal credit ethnicity stats should be treated with caution due to a degree of non-completion. Yeah. Australasian, yes. Yeah, it's a bit Orientalist, isn't it? Very Orientalist. The other half of Turkey, like the other side of the Bosphorus, is still classed as Asia Minor. So you've got the Thracian part of it, which is a bit closer to Europe, so the part of Greece, that bit. That's where Thrace is. They class themselves as European. They're all Turkish, obviously. So they class themselves as European, more European at least, because they're closer to Greece. But yes, the further east part of Turkey, they're Turks, which is from the steppes. So they're Asian. Right, so Thrace, the Thracian part is the bit that's closest to Greece. The people who were born and brought up there, they class themselves as European. The ones on the far east side of Turkey, no, past the Hellespont, they class themselves as, some of them do, most of them, they're Turkish. But the Turks are from the steppes. They're Asian. And you had the Byzantines, we're going back a few thousand years now. They class themselves as European or Romai, so Romans. Which a lot of them do actually have Roman ancestry, obviously. It's only a couple thousand years ago. Turks? Indian? Yes. The vast majority of Alexander's troops were Thracian and Asia Minor. They were from Turkey. In Macedonia and parts of Greece. No. So yeah, the Turks are from the steppes, just like the Golden Horde, like the Mongols. They're from the steppes as well. And they basically did what Professor Dalrymple said earlier on, basically burst their way into Europe. So there's Asian descendants in Europe. In Kiev and the Kievan Rus, they're from the steppes. But they're European, the Ukrainians are European. Until we say, fuck off, we're not supporting you anymore. But yeah, remember, race is a social construct. Human is the better classification. There is genetic difference, obviously, but race is a social construct, and a deeply racist one at that. Ah, wow. Caribbean in me. B positive blood, by the way. So apparently, a couple of centuries ago, one of my ancestors, who would have been a lot darker than myself, on my dad's side of the family, so my granddad done all the research and stuff. Apparently some enterprising, not merchant, oh god, he made rum, so he done sugar and rum in the Caribbean, 1500s or something. So he done that, he made his money, and he came back with family members, with a wife that he'd married from there, and children, and he moved back home to Scotland. Hence my B positive blood and what Super Hubby calls my weird genetics. They'd done that when I got diagnosed with my issue. So they've done the ancestry to see if they can pinpoint where it might have, if it's from any genetics that I've got of these genetic issues from people in the past, obviously centuries ago. That was quite fun. The more recent ones are Norwegian and Scottish and Irish from either side of my family. So Norwegian, Canadian and Afro-Caribbean from my dad's side of the family. My great-granny was Canadian, but she had Scottish ancestry. Her grandparents had moved over about 80 years before the clearances, so the early 1800s they moved over there and had family there, so there were Scots there, so there's Scottish ancestry anyway. Glasgow, but I was born and brought up in Perth, which is 63 miles northeast of here on the River Tay, so northeast. The next nearest city up just a little bit north would be Dundee. That's the next biggest one from where I'm from, but my dad's Glaswegian, he was born here. And I've been living here in Glasgow since I was 18, so nearly 30 years. Ugh. Luckily, I didn't need to prove to the Department of Work and Pensions that I'm British. It was taken, mostly taken for granted. They tried to do that with people born before, who brought it in? Heath wanted to do something similar, but he didn't have the majority to do it, but she managed to get it through. You had to prove, so people born after 83 had to prove that they were British. I didn't. I just needed to send in my birth certificate. They photocopied it. Plasmond Fleming. Yeah, and that's a Scottish name as well, but there was people going backwards and forwards because of the the Reformation. Thanks, Henry VIII, you fucking bastard. So a lot of, plus the Danelaw existed as well, so there's lots of Danish, Norse, Viking DNA. But remember when they first came over, that was fucking centuries ago. So the majority of people here in the UK probably have some sort of Nordic ancestry. Lots of people in Scotland, especially the Western Isles, because they never got handed back over until like the late 1100s, mid 1100s, something like that. Rejoice, comrade. Sozzled Snake is here. Hi, Sozzled. Rupert Lowe, being a racist. This is the Canary I'm reading, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. You'd only be classed as half British if either one or both your parents weren't born here. But even if they were born here before a certain point, they'd still be classed as British anyway, because of that, the way it changed from 83 onwards. They were British. So mostly Scots and mostly Scandinavian for me, with a little soupçon of Caribbean. Considering how fucking pale I am, it's weird. Technically, my niece is quarter Pakistani. Her birth father is Pakistani. Any existing figures are not a full picture of an ethnic breakdown, correct? And apart from anything else, the fact that, for example, Asian people are considered the same as Asian British skews the data by lumping together ethnicity with nationality. Yes, it makes no fucking sense. Why would you do that, Department for Work and Pensions? The incomplete data that does exist from DWP is not racially literate. Nothing's racially literate because race is a social construct and deeply racist. Is not racially literate enough to provide a realistic picture of who uses universal credit and how. We've been saying that for a while. About benefits in general, not just universal credit. On top of that incomplete data, a whopping 37% of people on universal credit were actually employed. Yes, because universal credit gets used to top up people's shitty wages. Funny that employers being bastards and not paying their staff enough. Meaning they make so little money that the government is required to top up their wages because it's not enough to fucking live on. Pay rent, mortgage, buy food, pay utilities, pay for travel to get to said shitty job, probably. Tesco go lad. Exactly. That should be a national outrage. Oh, trust me, some of us are outraged. Why is it possible for people to be in work but still not receive the money that they need to live? Capitalism. Capitalists. That's a problem. Been saying it for years. Do you listen to us? Do you bollocks? Oh, no. Whoops. And as the Canary Steve Topple reported, there are more statistics from the Department for Work and Pension which shine a damning light on Lowe's comments. On the 15th of July, the DWP published its latest stats on universal credit. Capitalism. Yes. Capitalism. On the 15th of July, the Department for Work and Pensions published its latest stats on universal credit. These showed that the overwhelming majority, 83.6%, that's fucking large, of universal credit claimants were British citizens. People like me. Whilst this sheds a little more light on the breakdown of ethnicity versus nationality, when it comes to Department for Work and Pension claimants, it's still something that right-wing media have seized upon as a talking point. Yes, they use it all the fucking time and we call them out for it because they're lies, damn lies and statistics, everyone. Remember that order, because stats can be manipulated in whatever way you want. Well, I know what I'd want the dragon to do. I'll be a good little girl, I will not say. It's still something that right-wing seized on as a talk. As Topo reported, the figure that has been waved around of over 1 million foreign nationals on universal credit is false. Wow, I'm surprised. Instead, 3/4 of those foreign nationals are EU citizens. Alright. Who hold settled status or indefinite leave to remain, which means they were born in another country but they went through the immigration process and now they have indefinite leave, which means they can work and claim benefits here. Seek recourse from the government if you wish. Of course, when using the phrase foreign nationals, Rupert is clearly intending to call to mind black and brown people, not Europeans who are mostly white. While some of his ire may well be directed at EU citizens, the racial dimensions of his remarks are obvious. Yes, they are. Instead, the broader point here is that Lowe is part of a concerted effort from the right, from right-wing figures and media to write off immigrants of any sort as spongers who come to the UK for the good life. Good. Oh! Always a pleasure to see you, Sozzled. I do so love you being here, but yeah. Thank you for visiting, as always. Stay hydrated, self-care, take your meds, stay based. Catch you later. Now, Rupert, you are being naughty. Unfortunately for Rupert, the rest of the right-wing talking heads, that argument isn't going to fly anymore. That's partly because Lowe hasn't made a name for himself as the brightest spark. Just days ago, he breathlessly rushed to his social media to report a boat full of illegal migrants. Oh god, this is so fucking hilarious. That he'd seen with his own eyes. Should have gone to Specsavers. However, the hapless Lowe was soon forced to backtrack when it emerged it was just a group of rowers. Oh god, London Economic. Oh god, you gotta make this sharp. Sir Michael Tate, CBE. Oh, he's an MP. Rupert Lowe has spotted another boat full of illegal migrants in our waters. My god, how could they get the dogs to stand so still to put them on a surfboard? Oh, right. Oh, God. Taking the mic. All right. Oh, God, right. I'll need to dig out its fucking cable. Oh, right. Oh, nearly finished. Whilst it's true that we need a fuller picture of the data, let's be clear about one thing. It does not matter if immigrants need support from the government to live. Correct. Nobody should be falling for this racist nonsense, and particularly not from a man who can't tell a group of migrants struggling to survive from a group of charity rowers. And for that matter, nobody needs financial advice from a multi-millionaire who isn't dog-whistling racist rhetoric about migrants as much as he is screeching full pelt. Right. I should have realised. Sir Michael take. You're a wanker, Rupert. Christ almighty. Yeah. Do 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 do. God almighty. Oh, I mean. I have brought it up. If people want me to move on from it, because the next two are about the Online Safety Act, I just thought people might want to laugh. Well, we've just had a laugh, obviously, at Rupert's expense, but he makes it so fucking easy. Oh, there we go. Fucking hell. Go in there. Wrong way around. Haha. Fuck it. Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. JD Vance meets Robert Jenrick and Chris Philp in the Cotswolds. Christ. I wonder what that discussion was like. Not that I wanted to know. Do. Right. Some lubrication is needed for this. US Vice President JD Vance has met Conservative Shadow Justice Secretary Bobby Jay and Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp at the house where he is staying during his holiday here in the UK. The BBC has been told Vance's team invited Jenrick and Philp to a private meeting with the VP in the Cotswolds on Tuesday. Vance and his family are visiting the area in the southwest of England for their summer break away from DC. The BBC has approached a Vance spokesperson for comment. Vance arrived in the UK last week and met David Lammy for talks about Gaza and other international affairs. at the Foreign Secretary's official residence, Chevening House. Kent, on Friday. Right. The Vice President is not due to meet Kemi, who is speaking to business owners on the Isle of Wight today, or yesterday. A Conservative spokesman said aides for Badenoch and Vance had been discussing a meeting but just couldn't make it work with their schedules. Badenoch met Vance last year when she was in Washington, D.C. and had dinner with the Vice President. Christ. Philpin Jenrick, who was defeated by Badenoch in the Tory leadership contest, met Vance for the first time in the Cotswolds. Jenrick and Vance have taken similar positions on a range of policy issues, from immigration to free speech. Blech. The Vice President has also met Thomas Skinner, a pillow salesman who appeared on Series 15 of The Apprentice. Yep, what? Help? But just some rando. Fair enough. In a post on Twitter, fuck off Elon, I am not calling X, Skinner posted a picture of himself with Vance with the message, "Here's a pic of me and Vice President Vance towards the end of the night after a few beers." JT Vance in a British pub. I'm overdressed in my suit, but when the VP invites you to a barbecue, you don't risk turning up in shorts and flip-flops. You could have worn chinos and a short-sleeved shirt. Cracking night in the beautiful English countryside with JD, his friends and family. Second of November, I believe. Then they'll drop her like a lead weight. Mark my words. Oh god, no, I wasn't going to do it this time actually. Fuck it, I might change my mind. I bet on who was going to be the last two, if you remember from last year. I cleaned up because I said the last two are going to be Kemi and Robert. I was correct, and I will say Kemi will win. And she did win, and I got a few £100. Ha! Do you know what? It's probably going to be one of those two fucking idiots anyway. Probably. Conservative MP Danny Kruger also attended the event. Oh, Christ. Last month, when asked by LBC if he would be meeting the Vice President, Reform leader Manfrog replied, "We'll have to see." Surprised he fucking didn't. Vance's trip has included several official engagements, meetings and visits to cultural sites. On Friday, he and Lammy went fishing for carp in the lake at Chevening before taking questions from the media in the drawing room of the stately home. Yeah. Vance joked that the special relationship had been put under strain when his children, unlike the Foreign Secretary, managed to get a catch. How is that? Over the weekend, Vance and his family enjoyed a guided tour of Hampton Court Palace. the former home of Henry VIII. Hampton Court Palace looks gorgeous. Residents in the hamlet of Dean in Oxfordshire have faced disruption, with police closing roads for the Vice President's visit. Brilliant, making life difficult for them. The village and manor house in the area have been under heavy security since Vance's arrival on Sunday evening. The Vice President has been pictured at a farm shop near Chipping Norton, close to the home of the former UK Prime Minister Lord David Cameron. Fuck off. Go away, Cameron. Vance's trip comes before US President Donald Trump, who travelled to Scotland for a private visit in July. Yes, we know, we didn't want him in our fucking country. Is scheduled to make a historic second state visit to the UK next month. Boo. Ah, there we go. Right. Correct. Oh, no. Oh, motherfucker. Alright, I'm not getting that one. Nope. Sorry, independent. Bleh. Oh no, the other one's independent as well. I think. Oh no, it's BBC. Okay. Okay. Wikipedia has lost a legal challenge to new Online Safety Act rules, which it says could threaten the human rights and safety of its volunteer editors. The Wikimedia Foundation, the non-profit which supports the online encyclopedia, wanted a judicial review of regulations which could mean Wikipedia has to verify the identity of its users. But it said despite the loss, the judgment emphasised the responsibility of Ofcom and the UK government to ensure Wikipedia is protected. Do you think they give a fuck? The government told the BBC it welcomed the High Court's judgment, which will help us continue our work implementing the Online Safety Act to create a safer online world for everyone. Judicial reviews challenge the lawfulness of the way in which a decision has been made by a public body. Yeah, I know how a judicial review works. In this case, the Wikimedia Foundation and a Wikipedia editor tried to challenge the way in which the government decided to make regulations covering which sites should be classed Category 1 under the Online Safety Act. The strictest rules sites must follow. It argued the rules were logically flawed and too broad. They are, meaning a policy intended to impose extra rules on large social media companies would instead apply to Wikipedia. In particular, the Foundation is concerned that extra duties required if Wikipedia was classed as a Cat 1 would mean it would have to verify the identity of its contributors, undermining their privacy and safety. The only way it could avoid being classed as Category 1 would be to cut the number of people in the UK who could access the online encyclopedia by about 3/4 or disable key functions on the site. The government's lawyers argued that ministers had considered whether Wikipedia should be exempt from the regulations, but had reasonably rejected the idea. There's nothing reasonable about it. It's an encyclopedia. They're going to come after books next. Left the door open. In the end, the court rejected Wikimedia's arguments. Brilliant. But Phil Bradley Schmeek? Sorry, Phil, I probably butchered your last name there. Lead counsel at the Wikimedia Foundation said the judgment did not give Ofcom and the Secretary of State, in Mr. Justice Johnson's words, a green light to implement a regime that would significantly impede Wikipedia's operations. And the judgment makes it clear other legal challenges could be possible. Wikimedia could potentially challenge Ofcom's decision making if the regulator did ultimately decide to classify the site as Category 1. Hopefully Ofcom won't fucking do that because it's just an encyclopedia. And if the effect of making Wikipedia Cat 1 meant it could not continue to operate, then other legal challenges could follow. Fair enough. Wikipedia has been caught in the stricter regulations due to its size and user-created content, even though it argues convincingly that it differs significantly from other user-to-user platforms. Said Mona Schrodel, data protection litigation specialist at law firm Threes. The court's decision has left the door open for Wikipedia to be exempt from the stricter rules upon review. Cheer. The communications regulator, Ofcom, which will enforce the Act, told the BBC, "We note the court's judgment and will continue to progress our work in relation to categorised services and the associated extra online safety rules for those companies." Okay. Poor Wikipedia. Haha, there we go. I have no idea if I don't think I've put anything in my watch later. Give me a minute. Oh! There we go. I have. Give me a minute. Playlists. Watch later.
Right now, as we speak, there are atrocities and genocides being carried out across the world. In Ethiopia, in Sudan, in Myanmar, in Ukraine, in Palestine, and elsewhere. Like much of the world, my eyes have been on Gaza, where Israel continues to carry out its mass ethnic cleansing campaign on the Palestinian population. I've mentioned the need for Palestine's liberation in the past, but this recent escalation seems to have finally triggered a shift in the global consciousness. It is difficult to verify the numbers at this point in time, but certainly more than 83,000 people, mostly women and children, have been killed due to Israel's military violence, imposed mass starvation, and destruction of healthcare capacity in the Gaza Strip, all in broad daylight, live streamed for the whole world to see. There's no Superman to save them. Instead, their extermination continues to be supported by the globe's principal superpower. My eyes bleed at the sight of this injustice. Each of the crises unfolding across the world today is just as worthy of our attention. But I believe that the Gaza genocide in particular has exposed some of the myths of the system of capitalism, statism, and hierarchy for all to see. So that's what I want to talk about today. Earlier this year, I dropped a video ranking just some of the myths of the system, the ideas and beliefs which serve the status quo. Now I want to talk about 4 myths that are being challenged by those serious about resisting genocide and liberating all people. Last time, I ranked the myths on a tier list based on which ones I thought were most impactful, deceptive, and resistant to questioning. The S tier myths, or less impactful,
So do I.
more commonly questioned, and easier to deconstruct. The D tier myths. I'll be using the same criteria this time to add to the list I already put together. Before we begin, I want to be clear that I will not abide by any denialism of what is unfolding right now. I have no tolerance for Zionist sentiment, in my comment section, or anywhere else. This video does not exist to provide historical context, outline the genocide case, or detail Israel's ongoing actions. If you're unaware and wish to learn more, you can check out these videos and channels. Without further ado, let's get into the myths. First, we have the myth of law. This is the belief that the law is just.
The one on the left, Noah Sampson. I keep on meaning to go over and check just to watch them on my phone at some points. But the one on the right, GDF, that exact video that you saw the little thumbnail for a second ago, is the one preceding this on my watch later list. I'm a patron for JDF. Him and Kane Skills.
Just, impartial, and necessary to keep us safe. But the law doesn't keep us safe. It can't resolve the systemic causes of most criminal behavior, so crime persists no matter how many people are locked up. Nor does it address the systemic violence faced by communities and ecosystems, except to uphold it. And the law isn't neutral either. It exists to defend the status quo of exploitation and oppression by the ruling class. For the poor and powerless, it is ruthless and unforgiving. For the ruling class, it is easily negotiable. Above all else, the law protects the sanctity of their rule and their property, acquired via historical and ongoing conquest. We're expected to externalize our sense of justice to these morally bankrupt authorities. We internalize the belief that if something is illegal, it must be wrong, and if something is legal, it must be just. Politicians, teachers, and media all normalize the idea that justice lives in the law. But our lives prove otherwise. The state of the world proves otherwise. Again and again, the law fails to respond justly to contexts where justice is most needed, while consistently punishing those who do resist injustice. What does this tell you about its true intent? The situation is no different on the global stage, where the law continues to serve the interests of the rich and powerful, arms manufacturers, and imperial powers. The brutal consequences of Israel's ambitions, backed by its fellow settler colonies, exposes the false promise of the rules-based international order for all who cannot already see. What good are human rights laws if they don't meaningfully apply to us all? Whatever high-minded intentions it may appear to have on paper, the law has failed to protect the people of Gaza, far more so than it already fails to protect the rest of us. Yes, the law has changed in the past. Through relentless struggle from below, people have managed to bring the law closer to justice in certain instances. But if anything, that should show us that we don't need the law to tell us what justice is. We don't need the permission of the ruling class to resist injustice by any means necessary. We can reclaim responsibility for ourselves, our communities, and our environment. And it is our duty to stand in solidarity with those trying to do the same. I'd place the myth of law in the A tier. It's deeply embedded in our imagination about how society works, but it's becoming increasingly clear that we'll need to overcome it if we want to pursue justice. The myth of neutrality is the belief that there is virtue and correctness in being moderate. It is the assumption that the truth always lies somewhere in the middle. It is the idea that it is even possible to be neutral under the system, but in a world shaped by exploitation. And oppression, claiming to simply seek middle ground is an exercise of profound moral cowardice. Though shades of grey exist, and the truth can be complicated, there are situations which require us to take a clear stand. Compromise simply cannot be found in every situation, and claiming that you don't take sides doesn't mean that you haven't already. To paraphrase South African anti-apartheid Bishop Desmond Tutu, in the struggle between oppressor and oppressed, neutrality is just complicity, especially when it comes to genocide. Mainstream media outlets have made their claimed commitment to truth a joke. Rather than speaking up for the unheard, they have deliberately chosen to use their platforms to favour the interests of the powerful, while downplaying or erasing the perspectives of those suffering most. The myth of neutrality is going in the C tier. I think its credibility is cracking under the weight of undeniable injustice, but there are still those who cling to the illusion of neutrality for the sake of institutional respectability, despite how obviously such neutrality favours the ruling class. Next, the myth of peace is the belief that this system is capable of advancing peace in the world. The idea that even as it suppresses domestic populations and wages endless wars abroad, it does so in the name of advancing peace, freedom, and democracy. But if peace is a state of harmony in the absence of hostility and violence, this system can never achieve it, because it relies on hostility and violence. It requires the expansion of the military-industrial complex, the forcible opening of new markets, the control of strategic regions, and the regimentation of nature and society. The brutality on full display in Gaza is just one particularly blatant example of how this whole system has built and expanded itself, through mass murder and mass theft. The system has been very successful in whitewashing, downplaying, and decontextualizing the long history of violence necessary to establish capitalism and the state. Much of the dirty work necessary to enrich and empower the ruling class was done in the distant past, out of sight and out of mind. The historic mass theft of land and people laid the foundation for a system that no longer needs as much overt violence. After a certain point, systemic inertia takes the reins. The ruling class can keep the resources in their control and keep the people in check most of the time because the laws have been laid down, the lines have been drawn, and the people have been trained to think, work, and live in ways that uphold the system. They don't know any other way, so they no longer pose a threat. But this dirty work is incomplete. The Zionist violence and land grabs taking place in the West Bank, the eviction of communities in the Congo to expand mining projects, and the capitalist expansions into indigenous territory in the Amazon are the continuation of a global history of mass murder and mass theft. The ruling class is waging a war on us all, and they are winning, for now. But their victory is not peace. War is not peace. Stability in the form of control, surveillance, and implicit violence is not peace. And we will never achieve peace until we overcome this system. I'm placing the myth of peace in the B tier. I think people in the global south have always known this myth to be a lie, but despite its systemic backing in the global north, The situation in Palestine has made it much harder for most people to deny. Finally, the myth of ethno-supremacy is the belief that certain ethnic groups are more worthy, valuable, or superior to others, and thus more deserving of land, resources, safety, dignity, or existence. The myth is a byproduct of ethnogenesis, the process by which groups form and come to see themselves as a distinct ethnic group, either due to self-identification or outside identification. While merely identifying oneself with a group is not inherently harmful, the myth of ethno-supremacy has created a world where some people's lives matter while others are disposable. A world where some groups can live in comfort at the expense of others. A world where the abstract and imagined birthright of a group trumps the life and liberty of real people. In the territory that later became Rwanda, colonial powers expanded and solidified pre-colonial social divisions into the distinct and rigid ethnic categories of Hutu and Tutsi, laying the foundation for a genocide that took the lives of approximately 800,000 Tutsis, Twa, and moderate Hutus in 1994. In the settler colonial project of the United States, due to ruling class fears of multi-ethnic collaboration, the distinct groups of European settlers were redefined into a singular whiteness, which offered privilege in exchange for their complicity in a racial hierarchy built on black subjugation. The settler colonial project of Israel was born out of the ideology of Zionism, which falsely claims to represent all Jewish people and act in their collective interest. In reality, Zionism is a political movement built upon ethno-religious supremacy that is used to justify the dispossession and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and an apartheid system that privileges Jewish Israelis over Palestinians. The myth of ethno-supremacy is an all too common byproduct of ethnogenesis that has been used to justify conquest, xenophobia, fascism, and genocide. So it's going in the S tier. It's difficult to uproot because it operates at the level of identity and is reinforced by education, religion, media, and the concept of citizenship itself. But until we recognize that there is no hierarchy of human value and that no group is more entitled to land, life, or freedom than another, certain groups will continue to be treated as existential threats to the imagined community called the nation. All of us spawned onto this planet at some point in the last 100 years. All of us have just as much right to enjoy it as anyone else. Borders be damned. People shouldn't have to suffer for the sake of these social constructs. So those are the 4 myths I wanted to highlight in the context of everything happening in the world in general and in Gaza in particular. I believe every myth we bust brings us closer to imagining something new. If you want to see me tackle other myths, check out the previous video and drop suggestions in the comments. Witnessing the devastation in Gaza and beyond is not easy, especially when it feels like there's nothing that we can do. Protest is clearly not enough. BDS puts pressure, but it's also not enough. Donating can help save lives, but it won't stop.
Right, I'm leaving this up for about a minute or so. Let's see, consumer us boycott targets: AXA, Carrefour, HP. Oh Christ, my laptop's HP. Chevron, that's easy. Petrochemical, fuck them. Caltex, petrochemical, fuck off. Can't make out that one. SodaStream. That's an odd one to have in there. Fair enough. I didn't know. Okay, divestment and exclusion targets. Dear God. Oh, fucking hell. Brilliant. Pressure targets. I'm fucked. Google. Amazon. Airbnb. Booking.com. I don't know what Teva is. Disney. Fucking hell. Organic boycott targets. McDonald's, Domino's, Papa John's, Burger King, Pizza Hut and Wix. It's a website builder. Right. The organic boycott targets. I go to I've never ordered from Papa John's, but I've been to McDonald's. I've ordered from Domino's. I've been in Burger King's. I've been in Pizza Hut. I've ordered from Pizza Hut. I've never used Wix. Pressure targets. Google. Brilliant. Android phone. Amazon. Where do you think half my tech for this stream came from? Christ. Airbnb, no. Booking.com, yes. For my hen weekend, my Hindu weekend with my mum, my two sisters, my sister-in-law, and my younger sister's best friend, and my niece, or nibbling. Disney, brilliant. MCU and Star Wars for Super Hubby. Expedia, never used it. And I'm not sure what Teva is. The way that's designed, I think it might be some form of agricultural company, maybe. So consumer boycott targets, HP, too late. This. Elbit systems. Countries use their arms manufacturer. CAF, no. Volvo. CAT, obviously Barclays, the RBS. JCB. Yes, we have seen them using JCB and CAP. Lucky Chevron. It's in 2 categories. Hikvision, no idea. HD Hyundai. Is that their... Obviously part of the Hyundai grouping. Brilliant, I'm going to have to stop going to Mickey D's. Mind you, in saying that, like the nearest ones to me are a McDonald's and a KFC. The KFC's closer to here, it's just up there a bit. If I want a boneless bucket, I send my super hubby and he goes and gets the boneless bucket. I think KFC are in Israel anyway. I know McDonald's are. But I've ordered from Domino's and Pizza Hut. I've been in Burger King's. I've never ordered from Papa John's. I think my sister, my middle sister, and her wife might have ordered from Papa John's. They've got all three all within stone chucking distance of each other and 10-minute drive away from their house for all three of them, plus a McDonald's and a Burger King quite close by. And a Tim Hortons. Please don't make me give up the MCU. I know I keep on swearing at it that they've corrupted the comics, but my middle sister says to me, just get Disney Plus. It'll be cheap. It's cheap enough now, and you can get your MCU. Plus your super hubby can get his Star Wars. We've got all the movies. We don't have any of the series, like the... Is Andor? So we haven't got Andor, we don't have The Mandalorian. I don't really use like the Expedia, Airbnb, Booking.com. I just go to a local, if we're going to a place for like a weekend or a few nights away somewhere, we just go to the tourist information office in the place, or to the one here in Glasgow before we leave, and find one and book it directly with the B&B, or if a hotel if we're going to a city. Fuck is it? You can go there. How many can everyone boycott here? Obviously, the takeaway ones in the bottom right box. I suppose they'd be easy. Go to a local takeaway or fast food restaurant. Like, we've got an absolutely amazing chicken shop just up the road. Wrong way, up there, up that way. Their box with like a few pieces of peri chicken, mountain, and I mean mountain of chips, a can of ginger, and onion rings, £5. Half the time I can't fucking finish it. But it is delicious. I finish all the chicken obviously, but seriously, mountain of chips. It's easy to get a chicken sandwich, like a McChicken, when I'm in the city centre shopping and stuff. It's going to be difficult to give up on my streaming. I can't. There is no way that any streamer whatsoever is going to be able to avoid not interacting with Google, unfortunately. Sad state of affairs, and IBM as well. So, and obviously Amazon Web Services, that's who owns Twitch, and Alphabet with Google. Depressing, isn't it? I don't drive, so I'm not interacting with fossil fuel. I'm in Asphodel. I didn't know you have to just play it in one file, just go all the way through, but raining lava. Blech. So I'm back in Tartarus again. Don't worry, I'll get through. I'm categorising what boons to take. I'm prioritising Athena and Zeus. Don't get me wrong, I am tempted by some of the boons from Poseidon because I am water coded, I am Pisces, so I hardly see Hermes, which is weird. I've only had 3 boons from him. Like, out of all the time that I've been playing Hades, which is about 5 months now? Yeah, just after my birthday I bought it. He is, isn't he? I've caught up. The only, I'm still, whenever I'm always getting to her now, I'm always getting to the first Fury, and it just depends. I've got dodge, I've got deflect down to a fine art now, but she still fucking gets me most of the time. Yeah, thank you for your help, by the way, Jim. Much appreciated. So as of now, I have now came up against Megara 13 times. So the next time I go and get up to her will be 14th. I've killed her 4 times. It's kind of fun. Plus she lots of different, she fires things at you, she spins around, she sets other little mob attacks on. Would you be able to avoid all these people, or some of these people, Jim? Like I say, we can't avoid Android. I've never been Apple either. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Let us continue with Androism.
BDS puts pressure, but it's also not enough. Donating can help save lives, but it won't stop the genocide. The crackdowns continue, and yet the tactics have hardly evolved. We need a social revolution to overturn the status quo and establish a better world. That much is clear. It won't take place in one fell swoop. The odds are against us. The resources are not yet in our favour. Our labour power has been made harder to organise. The system has successfully seeded divisions, raised obstacles, and learned from every past uprising. So it may take many years and many pockets of autonomy to eventually break out of its shell. I don't think it's impossible, but it will be very difficult. I wish there was more that I could say, more that I could do, more that I could reach. I don't have many answers, but I want us to push our imaginations forward and shape the world accordingly. That's what this whole channel is about. Learning and exploring as much as possible. For practical ways to oppose and propose for the sake of social revolution, check out my other videos. I hope that you'll join me in reclaiming our future. Until next time, all power to all the people. Peace. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with your fellow peoples. Thanks to the seedlings, the saplings, and especially the roots for making all of this possible, including our newest members, Sen and Amanda Nichols. You can join these beautiful humans and support me too on patreon.com/seeingtrue. Check out my other videos for a range of radical topics. Thanks again. Peace.
Do you? Where's our nearest co-op? The 24-hour ones for us are Tesco and Morrison's, and also the local McDonald's, which is basically 10 minutes walk. Yeah, it's a 10-minute walk for Super Hubby. Well, it's 8-minute walk for him up to the McDonald's. So I was trying to work out there, but they're both pretty much the same. We've got a large, this shiny new. It opened last summer, so we've got a shiny new Morrison's up there in the Triangle Centre, and Bishop Briggs, and we've also got Tesco St Rollox over in that direction. It is fuck off big. I think it's the largest Tesco in Glasgow, the one that's near us, and it's 24 hours. So that's us. We've got a choice of a Morrison's, a Tesco, or a Mickey D's. Our nearest 24-hour Burger King, city centre. So that's a bus away, or 2 buses, depending what one we. No, it's one of the so it's 2 buses away for the Burger King. So that's our 2 nearest. So Tesco that way, Morrison's up that way. Our nearest Morrison's is in the East End, which is 3 fucking buses. Daft. We did have a co-op in the city centre on Union Street, but it got closed. That's a Morrison's now. There's a Morrison's in Anniesland, which would be 2 buses. One to Great West, one to basically the West End, in Byers Road, top half, then round the corner to bus that goes out to Anniesland. But if we were doing that, we just get the 1 bus and go straight to the Morrison's at Merklin Street in Partick. But the nearest ones are Tesco that way, Morrison's up there, or the walking distance for the McDonald's. Thank you, Altruism. That was amazing. The co-op's nearer my mum, up in Perth, obviously, so she can get to co-op. Lucky mum. And my niece, my nibbling, lives in the city centre. Well, yeah, they're still in the city centre at the minute. So they're in the city centre, so they're walking distance from a McDonald's. No, she isn't. That one, no, they aren't even. Sorry, darling. Their nearest McDonald's is like 2.5 miles up a hill from them. The nearest 24-hour one would be a Burger King. 15-minute walk. Yeah. Nearest KFC. I can't remember where the KFC is. In Perth. Naughty Katie. I can't remember. Okay, let's see what else we can find. Oh, no, wrong one. It's charging. No, what was that?
The most famous trials were those held in
Nuremberg. It's the 14th largest city in Germany. It has a reconstructed...
Oh, it's Jacob Geller. Sorry, Jacob. Nope.
Right now, as we speak, there are atrocities and genocides being carried out across the world. In Ethiopia, in Sudan, in Myanmar, in Ukraine, in Palestine, and elsewhere. Like much of the world, my eyes have been on Gaza, where Israel...
What's the stream videos? Oh. I will be back momentarily, comrades. Please bear with me. Rejoice, I return. Right. Playlists. This is wild. 1, 2, 3, go.
This headline was so bizarre that I had to double, triple, quadruple check that it was actually real. Scientists are transforming dental floss into a vaccine. It is kind of brilliant. And here's why. For years, scientists have tried to develop a needle-free vaccination alternative. The mouth and nose seem to be the most obvious target since that's where most viruses like to set up shop. But here's the thing. Your body didn't survive millions of years of evolution just to have some random molecules waltz through your mucous membranes. But then engineer Harvinder Gill stumbled upon this fascinating dental research paper. So there are these little pockets between your teeth. That's called the gingival sulcus. It turns out they are total aces at absorbing molecules. That was Gill's light bulb moment. If our gums can absorb molecules,
that's why crap builds up. Plaque. And other things. So, orangeal, essentially, so nose, teeth, gums, throat. That's how lots of things get in. It is possible for things to get in through the ears as well. Slightly more complex biology behind that one, but it's easy. Things be floating around in air. We put things into mouth, not just juice or alcohol or food, like burgers, pizzas, whatever, fucking stew, curry. So there's lots of different ways, because this is the easiest one, obviously, and so is this. But yeah, being able to use, like, it'd be wider, no dental floss is thin, just to dislodge things, to get it done properly. Dentist, obviously, descale and polish. That I get for free on the NHS up here. I actually have dentist. I'm super happy once a year because the jammy bastard doesn't get much cavities or dental caries and shit like that. By the way, how you get plaque and other and yellow and genetic component to that, by the way. I obviously have the genetics for having more plaque. Plus my jaw itself, so this bit, and the joint, ouch. The temporal mandibular joint up here, the hinge for the mouth. Kind of dodgy. These can move around. They can move. They're loose because the way they connect to the skull wearing away. It's delightful. So if I get any sort of looseness in my teeth, emergency appointment, straight to dentist or straight to dental hospital. Scary. My teeth could literally just fall out. Then I would bleed quite badly. Which is an extra complication because I'm on blood thinners as well now. So if they start feeling a lot loose, I have to go straight to the dentist and they have to deal with it. Either pull it, pack it up, and make sure that I don't bleed to death by losing my teeth. The internal bleeding's more of a worry really, because if I'm not careful and bash parts of me, I bruise, which means blood vessels break and I bleed inside. Terrifying, really, when you think about it. Yeah. Blood thinners be scary. But apparently my blood still is too thick, so I'll be on the, it's called apixaban if you want to look it up. Developed from snake venom because they make the bullets easier for them to digest. That's what happens. They bite. Don't get me wrong, there's ones out there with fucking neurotox, they wage chemical warfare on us, but they also have an anticoagulant in their venom to make it easier for them to digest their prey. But yeah, so they developed a Pixpad for the no many people get put on warfarin, by the way, now, for reasons.
Super well, then why aren't we using them to deliver vaccines? What happened next was probably something no scientist had ever done before. Are you ready for this? They flossed a mouse's teeth. How many scientists does it take to floss a mouse's teeth? Apparently 2 PhD level scientists. What they did was coat dental floss with a fluorescent protein, and then they got straight to work on probably some very confused mice's pearly whites. The results were that 75% of the protein successfully penetrated the gums. Not bad for proof of concept involving teeny tiny rodent dental hygiene. But the real test was loading the dental floss with an inactive flu virus. The team flossed 50 mice every 2 weeks over 28 days. Then, 4 weeks after the final floss session, they exposed all the mice to a live flu virus. Every single flossed mouse survived, while the unflossed control group sadly did not. But here's where the method gets really promising. The flossed mice didn't just survive, they thrived. Their immune response was comprehensive. Flu antibodies, elevated T cells, and they even found flu antibodies in the mice's bone marrow for long-term protection. Their immune systems had fully downloaded the flu data and built out this complete defense system. Now, let's be honest, none of this really matters unless it can work in humans. So 27 human volunteers flossed with a food dye-coated dental floss. On average, 60% of the dye successfully penetrated the gums. Currently, the floss vaccine method works as well as nasal vaccines like flu mist. But the goal is to reach the potency of a syringe-administered vaccine. Gil and his team are continuing to refine this technology, but it's kind of wild to think that one day we might get vaccinated not at the doctor's office, but at the dentist. If you like science we're sharing like this, then follow us everywhere at Today Learn Science, at TIL Science. This headline was so bizarre that I had to double, triple, quadruple check that it was actually real.
That's been sitting on my stream videos playlist for a week or something. That give me it. I know there's family members of mine on both sides of the family, oddly enough, terrified of needles. That would make it easier for them. Obviously, good few years research and stuff, manufacturing, blah blah blah, things of that nature. As it stands, your any vaccination, it has to be a needle or flu mist. It's one of those ones, like Liza or something, for hay fever and things of that nature. They've managed to do that, which is easier for people who are afraid of needles. Being able to do this, just floss on yourself like that, brilliant, fucking fascinating. I've never been terrified of them. My little sister has. I can understand why. Her dentist was a horrible, horrible person, and basically I made her. She hates the dentist. She still hates it. She goes. Don't get me wrong. She does go to the dentist, but she absolutely hates it. And for a long time, when she was a little girl, up until about her late teens, terrified, absolutely fucking terrified of going to the dentist. As a result of that, needle phobia as well. It's quite. She's a community nurse. She's a nurse now, but she's fine with it. She still hates having to go to the dentist. I've never had a problem. My dentist from the same practice when I was a little girl, he was fantastic. I loved Dr. Cuthbertson. He was amazing. He always explained to me and my middle sister, we're the two older ones, what was going to happen. He explained it clearly. And he was quite funny. And he explained what was going to happen. We have to do this. This is what we're doing. This is the thing that we do that with. But Dr. Leishman, bastard, Mum yelled at him because he never put in enough anaesthetic when he was treating my younger sister. And she literally went in, and Dr. Cuthbertson heard this and came in because he recognised my mum's voice. She can't get quite loud. Well, back then she was quite kind of loud. Basically torturing her child. And he swapped over, I'll take the little miss, I'll take her. But she's my patient. No, you're doing it wrong. She was only 4 at the time. She was just about to go to, yeah, she was about 4.5, getting close to her 5th birthday. So, my poor sweetie. She might actually like this. Getting vaccines as a floss. Right. Nope. No. Yeah, go home. Do. How long have we gone for? 1 hour 52. Oh my god. Going news? Oh! Will we do demo? I will do demo. That one? Yeah, let's do demo. Ah! Bugger. Right, so, yeah, oh motherfucker. Right. Rejoice, comrades. Elron Hubbard is here. Hi, Elron. Where is it? Oh, fuck it, I'll just go to his channel. Okay. I've bought one of Demo's t-shirts. Care now, Demo. Channel proper. Videos. There it's there. Go.
Right, so it took Margaret Thatcher a decade of bruising battles to earn her poll tax moment. Keir Starmer's managed it in one afternoon. Yesterday, the Starmer regime turned London's Parliament Square into Britain's biggest ever terror suspect holding pen. Though the only weapons in sight were cardboard placards and the odd thermos flask. With the sort of gusto normally reserved for royal weddings or football riots, the Metropolitan Police hauled away hundreds of pensioners, wheelchair users, veterans and human rights campaigners under laws meant for bombers and death squads. The charge, of course, was expressing support for a protest group whose gravest offence is splattering red paint on arms factories supplying Israel. It was a masterclass in political self-immolation. A Prime Minister who campaigned on defending the right to protest, now criminalising it to the extent that he is. A Home Secretary applying terrorism power to criminalise dissent, even as the courts are conducting a judicial review on the ban's legality due to come in November. And a police force insisting it arrested everyone holding a placard while actually lacking the cell space to house as many as there were, and therefore seemingly telling us all porky pies. In the annals of state overreach, it was part farce, part authoritarian cosplay, and wholly revealing of a government more comfortable cuffing grannies than confronting genocide. Right, so yesterday the United Kingdom witnessed an extraordinary waste of state power. In the space of a single day, hundreds of people, perhaps as many as 500 according to some accounts, were arrested in the heart of London, not for violence, not for carrying weapons, but for holding placards. The Metropolitan Police swept through Parliament Square, detaining those who had gathered to oppose the prescription of Palestine Action, the direct action group whose protests have targeted arms companies supplying weapons components to Israel. By the Met's own official count, 466 people were detained under Section 12 of the Terrorism Act of 2000 for support for a proscribed organisation, with 8 more arrested for other alleged offences, bringing the total to 474. Other sources gave smaller but still huge totals, and this is largely because of varying times in the release of their reports as much as anything else. AP News, for instance, reported 365 arrests, Al Jazeera more than 200. While the Times reported numbers higher than the notorious poll tax riot mass arrests of 1990. Whatever figure you accept, though, the scale was unprecedented in the history of terrorism legislation in this country. We knew how this was going to go down, though, didn't we? And so did those taking part. The Labour government under Keir Starmer had prescribed Palestine Action several weeks ago now, on the recommendation of Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. The move was controversial from the get-go, of course. Palestine Action is a domestic protest group. Its tactics involve property damage, but not attacks on people. Historically, prescription under the Terrorism Act has been reserved for armed groups engaging in or promoting serious violence against people, the IRA, Al-Qaeda, Islamic State. Applying it to a domestic protest group with no record of killing anyone or injuring anyone is without precedent. The United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights described the move as a disturbing misuse of counter-terrorism legislation. Amnesty International called it entirely disproportionate to the point of absurdity. Yet the government pressed ahead, even as Palestine Action co-founder Huda Amori won permission from the High Court to challenge the ban in a judicial review scheduled for November. So the lawfulness of the ban is unresolved still, therefore, yet the Home Office enforced it as though it were beyond question. The Terrorism Act of 2000 grants the Home Secretary wide discretion to prescribe an organisation if satisfied that it is concerned in terrorism. A definition so broad it includes serious damage to property where there is an intent to influence a government. Once prescribed, it becomes a criminal offence to express support for the group in any form, wearing its logo or carrying its banner or, as on the 9th of August, holding a placard with its name on it. The maximum sentence is 14 years. Critics have long warned that the law's breadth makes it ripe for political abuse, and here we go. The events of yesterday showed just how far that abuse can go. The policing of the protest was justified publicly in absolute terms, of course. Senior Met officers said in advance that anyone visibly showing support for Palestine Action would be arrested. After the protest, the force claimed it had arrested everyone holding a supportive placard. Yet this assertion collapsed under scrutiny. Freedom of Information disclosures, you see, show that the Met operates 602 permanent custody cells across 28 sites, plus 139 contingency spaces, giving a theoretical maximum of 741. Many of these will be occupied already during normal times, of course, with those arrested for ordinary offences. On a normal day, baseline occupancy apparently runs at between 50 and 85%, leaving perhaps some 230 to 440 spaces available at max. Processing terrorism-related arrests is far slower than ordinary offences. They involve lengthy interviews, biometrics, and all the counter-terror paperwork associated with that. Therefore, Defend Our Juries, a court support network who organised this protest, estimated that over 800 people were in the square holding supported placards. It is simply not possible, logistically, for the Met to have taken all of them into custody, therefore. The inescapable conclusion is that the police either arrested a smaller subset and presented it as total enforcement, or they used arrest loosely to include brief street-side detentions without full custody, but there's been no reports of that happening. In either case, though, either way, the public's been misled by them. Certainly Defend Our Juries think so, as they replied to the Met Police official tweet on this matter by saying, "This statement is untrue. We have plenty of footage showing that at 2 p.m, when the vigil was due to end, many hundreds of sign holders left Parliament Square, with hundreds remaining in place until arrest. The numbers are quite simple. You arrested 466 out of 800 plus sign holders. So come on, Met, fess up. You know you didn't have space for all those.
It is not physically possible for them to arrest everyone and lock them up. So what usually happens is police bail, essentially. I can't remember how it works down in England, I'm sorry. There's never, that obviously there's other people that have been arrested, people who have been drunk and disorderly, shoplifters, things of that nature. So there wouldn't be enough. Yeah. They shouldn't have arrested them to begin with. Yeah. So, this is just fucking ridiculous. And seriously, arresting a dude, I think Morph was in the O in action. I'll see if I can find it. I saw it. It was on Kev's stream. Yeah, they're fucked now. Yeah, it was funny. And they arrested him. I didn't know that bit. Idiotic. The fuck's going on, mate? Mind you, I don't think it should exist as an organisation anymore. Corrupt from the bottom up, or the top down, if you wish. Either way, corrupt from side to side. So, no, it doesn't. It needs reform. Literally. Defund it. Bring in all, whatever ones are in there just now. Just say, fuck off, you're not police anymore, you're retired. Have your retirement. Just go away. And bring in better training and things like that and build it up again. But that would cost money. And I don't see Rachel giving Yvette the money to do it. Do you? Brilliant. So we've basically got fashy police. Especially in London now. Fucking amazing.
Placard holders, don't you? Those targeted on the day included individuals whose very profiles undermine the state's narrative too. Among them was Moazzam Beg, former Guantanamo Bay detainee and now a director of Cage International, a group that has spent 2 decades challenging abuses in the war on terror. This very much qualifying for that, in my view. As Five Pillars UK reported, Beg has given evidence to parliamentary committees and is recognised internationally as a human rights advocate. Also arrested was Chris Romberg, a former British Army officer in 29 Commando Regiment, Royal Artillery, former UK military attaché to Egypt and Jordan, and the son of a Holocaust survivor. As other reports have observed, there were also elderly protesters, disabled activists, and this moment which perhaps encapsulated the overreach and stupidity of the police heavy-handedness and the stupidity of this policy more than any other. Even a blind man in a wheelchair was amongst those detained under this terror legislation. To present such people as that as a terrorist threat stretches the law beyond the point of credibility. How those officers can look themselves in the mirror and tell themselves they did a good job yesterday, I simply don't know. I saw that, I was shaking with absolute rage. I could not record this story yesterday. God only knows what I'd have ended up saying. The sheer volume of arrests stands out in Britain's counter-terrorism history. Home Office reports on operation of police powers under the Terrorism Act of 2000 show that in the year to March 2023, there were 166 terrorism-related arrests across the UK. In 2022, 196. In 2021, 185. Even in years following major attacks, 2018, for example, with 441 arrests after the Manchester Arena and London Bridge atrocities. The total fell short of what happened in a single...
I know 29 Commando. I know people who were in it. They're retired now. They're older than me. I've drank with them in Glasgow. One of them is kind of mad. A mad Scotsman, never been known. But yeah, I know 29 Commando. I've family members who have served. My granddad was a sacker. Didn't blame him. New Zealand looks lovely. Plus, I did kind of like Jacinda Ardern. I thought she was fairly okay for a politician. Obviously, still a politician, but she was good, I guess. Go.
Single day in August of 2025. The previous modern record in 2017 was 412. This means the Starmer government detained more terror suspects in one day than any previous government has in an entire year since the Act came into force. Historically, only the 339 arrested during the poll tax riot and the roughly 400 on the busiest day of Extinction Rebellion's April 2019 actions come even close. And of course, neither of them involved terrorism charges, of course. So the scale is matched only by the mismatch between policing priorities and public safety. While Parliament Square was saturated with officers to kettle and detain peaceful demonstrators, London's violent and acquisitive crime rates continued to climb. Knife-enabled crime has risen nearly 60% in the last 3 years. Robbery of business property is up 50%, shoplifting up 20%, mobile phone thefts number over 81,000 annually, and theft from person offences have risen 15%. Clear-up rates for muggings are dismal, with only 1 in 20 robberies actually solved. The diversion of hundreds of officers to suppress political dissent under counter-terrorism powers while such crime proliferate is not only a moral misjudgment, but a dereliction of duty to protect the public. The Met Police already has massive questions to answer regarding its ability to do its job, but to make that worse, simply to stage manage Starmer and Cooper's authoritarianism, is obscene. Politically, the arrests are a stark betrayal of Starmer's promises too. In his 2020 Labour leadership campaign, of course, those infamous 10 pledges, let's cast our mind back to those. Pledge 4, Starmer pledged to defend the right to peaceful protest and resist authoritarian overreach. Now, as Prime Minister, he has presided over the most extreme use of the Terrorism Act against a protest movement in the law's history, aligning with Yvette Cooper's decision to criminalise support for a group whose cause, ending UK complicity in Israel's actions in Gaza, commands significant public sympathy and support. The prescription has become emblematic of a wider assault on dissent by this government now, the state deploying its most draconian laws to shield a foreign policy position from domestic challenge. The underlying cause is the UK's role in Gaza. Palestine Action exists because companies on British soil manufacture and export components used in Israel's military operations. The group's tactics, rooftop occupations, blockades, damage to arms factory entrances have disrupted the flow of weapons and embarrassed the government's narrative of defensive cooperation with an ally. The International Court of Justice, alongside multiple human rights organisations, has described Israel's siege and bombardment of Gaza, of course, as plausibly amounting to genocide. Yet rather than address its own complicity, the UK government has chosen to criminalise the messenger instead. Historically, heavy-handed policing of dissent backfires. The poll tax riot helped crystallise public opposition to Margaret Thatcher finally, contributing to her downfall. This moment has the potential to become a similar inflection.
Not so much rioting up here. Warrant sales, which got banned after this, obviously. So people were just out protesting, and whenever anyone, like, I'll just take my street for instance, including my neighbour across the way, when they brought it in, and if people didn't pay it, bailiffs used to come in and put price tags on everything. So there's basics, there's things that they're not allowed to touch. Cooker, washing machine, fridge, freezer, we've got an undercounter and a chest freezer, and kettle and toaster, they're not allowed to touch those. Those are the basics, those are the bare minimum. They're not allowed to touch those things. But everything else, I mean everything else, they can put a price tag on it and people can come in and bid for things. So telly, DVD player, well, it would have been VHS player, video player then, computer, all your hair care things like hair dryer, strainers, curling tongs, blah blah blah, they can all get price tags. And all your books, all your videos then, or it would be DVDs now, people can come in off the street and buy the stuff so to pay back the council tax she never paid. My mum paid it. Said it's not worth getting the arrest and having the bailiffs come in and basically have people come in and buy shit right out of your own house. Delightful. My God, Tommy Sheridan, you actually done something decent for us. They were campaigning on it. This is wrong, get rid of warrant sales, blah blah blah. But if we heard this, people used to go to the house where this was going to be happening and just stood in the street with their arms crossed and basically blocked the bailiffs from entering. A few people did kick off, obviously, saying why the fuck are we... So people, households with more people, which is usually poorer people because they have more kids, bigger families, things of that nature. So that was fun. Yeah, they're not allowed to touch anything belonging to children as well, but anything that they can prove that the parents owned, apart from the basics, washing machine, possibly tumble dryer as well, and cooker and refrigeration for food. They're not allowed to touch those, and they usually left what food and other things. They were all left. So the kitchen was probably the only place that they never went into, but the living room, bedroom, bathroom, blah blah blah. Hallway even. Your phone. People could go in and buy your telephone. Fucking ridiculous. Yep. They're only going to get this one government, that's it. So we need to start organising and educating everyone so we don't actually get manfrog into number 10, because this is nothing. It's going to be fucking worse under reform in government. But if I think that happens, we'll just revert back to voting. If it looks like they're going to fucking win in 2029, hopefully SNP and Scottish Greens up here, hopefully Greens, Socialist Independent People, Lib Dems. Tories are dead. Whoever they bring in after Kemi, another fucking nutter. There would be. We'd kick off. We didn't vote for fucking Ron Frog. I'm hoping they don't fucking get any list or constituency MPs up here next year. I will be educating Scotland. Do not fucking trust them. Hopefully Labour and the Tories are going to get absolutely brutalised, because they fucking deserve to. Anas Sarwar's on the list. He doesn't have a constituency. Hopefully the SNP will get an administration again. I don't want to see more Scottish Greens personally. Just saying. Yeah. So there's a good couple of years that they can actually build up. I'm still going to be looking out for when their party conferences, so they can choose the name, their policies, blah blah blah. That'll be fun. Watch this space.
inflection point for Keir Starmer. The imagery is potent. A blind man in a wheelchair, flanked by police, a decorated veteran in custody, a respected rights campaigner in handcuffs, rows of elderly people being led away for holding signs or even being bodily carried off and clearly in distress. Those images cut across political and cultural divides. They feed a narrative of a government that is out of touch, overreaching, and willing to smear ordinary citizens as terrorists for challenging its policies, its defence of Israel as this is. The constitutional implications are equally severe. Prescription is a ministerial power exercised with minimal oversight. Once a group is banned, even symbolic support becomes criminal. If this precedent stands, future governments can prescribe climate movements or trade union networks or anti-monarchy campaigners on the basis that their tactics involve serious damage to property aimed at influencing policy. Combined with the Public Order Act restrictions and the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act's curbs on demonstrations as well, the path towards outlawing protest movements wholesale is becoming alarmingly clear. This is why international comparisons matter. In most democracies, a domestic protest group would not be treated as a terrorist organisation unless it engaged in sustained lethal violence. In the United States, for example, even radical direct action groups are generally prosecuted under criminal damage or trespass laws, not designated as terrorist entities. In France and Germany, while police may disperse or arrest protesters for specific offences, blanket criminalisation of political support for a movement is rare and often struck down by their courts. The UK's approach risks placing it alongside states that use counter-terror frameworks to crush peaceful dissent, a trajectory more akin to authoritarian regimes than to pure democracies. It is democracy at stake here and now. Make no mistake about it. The role of lobbying and foreign influence also needs to have some scrutiny in this case. The Israeli government and aligned advocacy groups have long pressed the UK to curtail protests against its arms suppliers. Reports from outlets such as Middle East Eye and Declassified UK have documented years of private meetings in which Israeli officers and officials urged ministers to act against persistent demonstrations at Elbit Systems' British sites. The prescription of Palestine action appears to be the culmination of that pressure now, a political decision shaped by foreign lobbyists. The media's role in shaping public perception of the arrest is another factor in this. Mainstream outlets like Reuters and The Guardian report the facts of the arrest, but often frame them within the government's language of terrorism offences, implicitly accepting the classification. By contrast, alternative media like Squawk Box foregrounded the human stories of those arrested and questioned the legitimacy of the law itself, justifiably given the ongoing court involvement into the legality of the prescription. Imagery played a key role in coverage, with photographs of elderly and disabled protesters in custody circulating widely on social media, fueling outrage far beyond the activist core. But equally, this was the norm of the events. This is not selectively choosing the right images. This was commonplace action. The effect on the movement itself remains to be seen. History offers examples of repression either stifling dissent or galvanising it. The suffragettes, the civil rights movement, anti-apartheid campaigners all faced mass arrests, yet those crackdowns often swelled their ranks and strengthened their moral claim. Palestine Action may find that the government's attempt to erase it from public space instead cements its place in the public consciousness. And should the judicial review render the prescription unlawful, as surely is the only sane conclusion, they may see their membership swell as a result. In the end, the 9th of August 2025 was not simply a large-scale policing operation, it was a political act. The use of the state's most draconian security powers to criminalise peaceful protest in defence of a foreign policy under growing moral and legal challenge. The numbers, the logistical impossibility of the Met's claims of arrest, the profiles of those arrested, the context of UK complicity in Gaza all point to an abuse of power that goes beyond one protest or one group. It is a precedent that threatens the right to dissent in Britain itself. Whether the public, the courts, the Parliament will accept such a precedent may determine the future of political freedom in the UK for years to come, but if it goes against the public, don't for one moment expect protest to stop. This government should be asking itself what the hell it hopes to achieve, in which case you can't arrest everyone as demonstrated here, but better they just pack their bags and go at this point, because there shouldn't be any political comeback for the likes of Starmer and Cooper after this one. This isn't even Starmer's only Palestine Action-related issue this week, as he's also tried to justify their prescription as being the result of their actions having been anti-Semitic by implying they targeted Jewish businesses. Elbit Systems are Israeli, so that'd be a conflation between Jewishness and Zionism again, would it, Keith? Get all the details of that mess of his own making in this video recommendation here, as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content, as well as spreading the word and helping to support the channel at the same time, which is very much appreciated. Holding power to account for ordinary working class people. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.
I am open to suggestions, my comrades. If there's anything you'd like to see and get me to comment on. Do. Yeah, go back to home. I'm up for suggestions, or we can Shanna, Capricorn has went live. We could. No problem, Jim. I hope you're having fun and progressing. I have tried to bring it on stream to show you all me playing it, and I seem to be struggling. I will figure it out, do not worry. Even if I have to buy myself a fucking different monitor. Yeah, it's the back too. In fact, you know what? I think I will read out actually. I am a mod over on Cappy's channel. And she could probably do with me. So let's go and raid. Do. Thank you for being here, everyone. I will need to go to my channel on my phone, unfortunately. Twitch. Where be she? Do. Capricorn. Capricorn. Stream manager. Hi. Raid.
Delight. Though I will be taking it in easy. Oh, I didn't do good. Shame. Okay. Alright. Thank you everybody for putting up with that. I'm gonna run the ads real quick because they're gonna run anyway. And then we're going to watch 3 horrifying cases of ghosts and demons.
There we go. Thank you for everyone. It has been amazing. We done some horrible news
Alright, I'm
stories.
gonna play the ads
Fantastic.
real
The
quick.
one that I really wanted to read.
I'm gonna
you
go
have to
take
pay
some
the independent
Tylenol.
for.
Ibuprofen. I can't take
Damn it.
Tylenol. Tylenol doesn't do anything. I'll be right back.
Stay hydrated.
And I will mute the mic.
Take
Honestly,
care.
at this point, I'm afraid to
Change your
fucking
mind.
touch anything.
Stay based. And I'll catch us all later on today. Good few hours. Bye.
Something's here.
It's getting close. Save yourself.
FX's Alien Earth, an original series.